Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of FitzRupee Cast featuring DoW2 Retribution. Red-Rupee here with you tonight, calling the shots for you as always. And as you can see, we're looking in upon the remains of what appears to be an ancient ruined cathedral here on Outer Reaches. And you know what that means. A one-on-one match for you tonight. We're back on the Elite mod once again. Let's go ahead and take a look at our players. On the blue side, we have Codex playing as the Apothecary and all his healing, synergistic goodness for the Space Marine Army. And then we've got Myme on the opposing side with the Commando Knob, who's relying on his infiltration and other forms of subterfuge as far as his tactics go. We're going to have a great match here on Outer Reaches. Outer Reaches, of course, the map that sets you up with a nice shiny VP right in front of your own base, and then comes to that infamous arrowhead point right here with all the resources and contested VP way at the far end of the map. We've got these nasty cross retreat paths right here through the ruins, which ends up being very nasty for melee. I feel like orcs will be able to take advantage of that. Scouts with grenades also, because I'm sure we're going to see that double scout play coming from our Space Marine player Codex. Myme going for the typical double shooters, so nothing terribly out of the ordinary here. Everybody's just capturing their back resource points, getting their economy going up here shortly. And Codex versus Myme. Commando Knob on the field, man. I love seeing Commando Knob games. I really don't get to cast it much here. And I'll be honest, this is a match I have gotten to see in its entirety. And that will become blatantly apparent very shortly here as you start seeing me spam in the observer chat. So try not to let my incessant blabbering annoy you. Hey, that's why I became a caster, because I see a game being played and all I want to do is just talk about it with everybody. So you'll see me chatting and rambling and being silly here in chat. So don't let that distract you from the awesomeness that is this game, because it is a very interesting one. I'll try to keep it fresh, though, don't worry. I can still be excited when I know what's going to happen. We've got Scouts and Sluggers hanging out up top. Scouts reacting nice and quickly. Codex, very solid player on top of all of his micro, very commonly. Going to be able to get most of these contested points here in the center. Apothecary already popped, I believe, is popping a heal here right on these Tactical Marines, which are taking tons of fire. That Commando Knob does very nice damage with that Twin Link Bolter and never misses a shot. And speaking of, we're not going to see that for much longer, because we've got the Assassin's Knife coming onto the field for the Commando Knob. An often underused wargear can come out very well. Oh no, Sluggers, don't walk in between two scouts. Myme's trying to be a little overzealous with those Slugger boys. You should have just kept harassing the scouts up top there. Apothecary taking a bunch of fire. Looks like he's getting focused down by the shooters. Commando Knob moving in. Looks like he's going to try to stab himself a Tactical Marine. But oh my gosh, he takes a huge chunk off of that Apothecary, and down he goes. That Assassinate ability is so very strong in the early game. Apothecary with only 600 health. Assassinate does, I believe, 350 damage. Can take out attack model instantly. And I think he's about to take out another if he's not careful. He pulls back, but one goes down, and that's a huge loss right here for Codex in the early game. Apothecary down, loses attack model as well. Did take out a fair number of Sluggers and Shooter Boys, but that's a pretty large loss there to lose your hero right in the beginning of the engagement, especially when you're very dependent on your hero, as the Space Marine Army is going to be. Double Scouts and Tax without an Apothecary, not nearly as much of a thing to be afraid of for the Orcs. Codex did manage to get that contested power, though. He did have the power here. He got his node up. Didn't spend anything else, so he's going to be able to get those quick assault squad out right off the bat here. He's not going to bring back that Apothecary to start. He's going for the assault squad. That'll help him out a lot. Myme, of course, responding with a jump squad in kind, bringing the Storm Boys onto the field here shortly. Codex not going to be swayed by this early initial engagement loss right here. We've got big shooters coming out for at least one of those squads. Looks like just the one for the time being, as Myme only has one generator up. Still hasn't dropped the full power farm. And Tripper Shot going off there. You actually see this is an ability that is only available in the Elite mod with that Assassin's Blade. And what that does is it is a low damage shot, I believe. You can see I think it did next to nothing there. It might not even do any damage, but it does get a quick stun and knockdown in, allowing the Commando Knob to close in with ranged units a lot better with that Assassin's Knife. I'm not even sure if he has a melee charge with that. I'd have to double check. I've seen this wargear used so infrequently. Codex is ready to roll back out. He's got his whole squad back together. He's got the assault squad up. He's got the Apothecary back on the field and looking good. Stormboys about to find themselves on the wrong end of some bolters here. They're going to have to jump out of there or fall back. Otherwise, they're going to be pretty beat up for the upcoming engagement. They decide to fall back. Probably a good choice by Myme. Although I'm surprised they didn't just jump up here with the rest of the Orc army. Myme had a pretty good initial engagement. Let's see if he can get this steam continuing to go. 492 to 440, does have a BAP advantage here. Has some more VPs and managed to at least decap that central power node, allowing Codex to kind of take back the center of the map here. Commando not being very brazen, trying to get this cap in, but he doesn't want to stay there with the Assault Marines jumping in. He's taking tons of damage. He's going to retreat, but I don't think he's going to make it out of there. He's got to run the Space Marine gauntlet. Bolters and fists and chainswords. Oh my, down he goes. And he's just going to hang out, take a little nap in the center of the map while the rest of this battle rages on. Codex gets himself an easy break there. What would have been a definitive lead for Myme is just lost there in requisition as he has to repurchase that Commando Knob. Having another engagement coming down here on the center. Assault Marines taking lots of fire. We do see Burners upgrade on those Slugger Boys, so two of those Slugger Boys will be getting that bonus power melee right there. Apothecary trying to get a heal in. It looks like he tried to heal and the Apothecary maybe went the wrong way, but he falls yet again. Slugger Boys getting very low, finally jumping up. These Assault Marines need to get the heck out of there. They need to jump. They're getting very low on HP. Looks like Codex is going to retreat them, but it's going to be very hard to do so when they are dead. Oh my gosh. Assault Marines down. Apothecary down for a second time. My goodness, this is going to be rough. Myme has a huge advantage at this point in the game. Assault Space Marines, a loss of Assault Space Marines and your hero at this stage in the game is almost a certain loss here. Codex, very stubborn player though. He's very good at what he does. He's not going to be giving this up easily, even though he has lost those huge numbers here already. His power farm is not up, but it's going to be exposed. There's no point in him building power at this stage anyways. It's often good not to immediately drop your one or two generators against orcs in general anyways. Even if you think you're going to do well, make sure you can win that first engagement, because otherwise big shooters are just going to show up at your farm and punish you for it. Codex not even hesitating to bring that assault squad back out. It's going to put him way behind in the tech battle, but apparently he just feels he's going to need those Assault Space Marines to really stay in the game against the Commando Knob here. Apothecary is up, Assault Marines back up, Apothecary for the third time, Assault Squad for the second time, and Codex is moving on out here. He does have his scouts nicely upgraded at this point. He's got his shotguns, has a Sarge on one squad as well. These scouts do deceptively high damage when they have all four of those shotguns on the field. And with the Apothecary here healing up these Tax and Assault Marines, it's probably going to be pretty difficult to get that melee in there.
Support structure complete.
Got the Commando Knob doing some back cap, and that's probably a good choice all things considered. He does want to try to keep these rec points out of the hands of Codex at this stage in the game. He's bled Codex extremely heavily, taking out the Apothecary twice, taking out Assault Space Marines. That's 1,000 direct right there. So that in itself is going to be a huge win. Codex really desperately needs to get this gen farm down right here, because Myme's heading into tier 2 and Codex has 19 power. Oh, that's brutal. If a quick truck or a quick Death Dread comes out, that's going to be all she wrote for Codex. Here comes the assault jump, completely misses the shooter squad. Nice reaction time there by Myme. He needs to suppress those Assault Space Marines. There he goes, aiming. What's that? Beautiful use. Getting those Assault Space Marines in dire straits once again. Heal goes off, but they're still taking heavy damage and even misclick on the retreat. Oh, they needed to jump a little further back. Luckily, the scouts were there with a shotgun blast to save them. Got all three models out very fortunately, but this is not the angle you want to attack from. Storm Boys jumping in perhaps a little prematurely. The Shooter Boys are not in a position to support. Storm's taking heavy damage. Another knockback shot from those scouts, and it looks like the Sluggers are going to have to get forced off as well. Apothecary getting focused down here, but it looks like he may well get out of there. I think if the Commando Knob got in the retreat path, he might be able to finish him off, but it looks like he's not very well paying attention. He's more distracted right now with this imminent threat of a gen bash on this side of the field. Shooter Boys have to retreat, and this second squad's going to as well. Grenade scares them off, tags an extra orc, and miraculously, Codex is going to be able to get this generator bash off right here and probably have a chance at staying in this game. Upon realizing he's pushed off the orc threat, he fills up the remainder of his gen farm right there. Commando Knob does have most of the rec points on the map, though. He probably should decap this one instead of heading wherever he's heading right now. 294 to 440, though, and despite that, very nice push there by Codex. Pretty decisive gen bash as well. Codex is down by about 150 VPs. Commando Knob sneaking right past those scouts, tosses a nice-looking stun grenade, way long-armed that one. and scares off the tactical Marines. Codex recognizes that if those fellas stay stunned there, those Storm Boys are going to come in and make them regret staying on the field.
The orcs are taking one of our strategic
Interesting game so far, man. I love seeing that Assassin's Knife. Melee Commando Knob. Apparently a force to be reckoned with. Hasn't picked off too many other attacks or anything like that. I really think he should be tack hunting with that Assassin's Knife. And we have, the Sanguine Chainsword as well. So two rather underused wargear. Sanguine Chainsword makes the Apothecary quite reasonably tanky and quite a solid melee force. So we have Slugger Boys, and once again these shooters moving in on the gen farm of Codex over here. Myme's going to try to keep this pressure on. Looks like he's not going for the truck. He must be saving up for that Death Dread, bringing that thing out shortly. He does want to bring that out as soon as he can because he's got a huge tech advantage. He has to realize how far ahead he is and that an early vehicle can really secure this game for him. We've got Codex moving in once again. Getting the purification rights. I think that's a really excellent choice. Again, I see almost always that improved medical equipment, but really those purification rights are invaluable against this type of orc melee. Both knobs are on the field. That's going to be a lot of heavy melee to deal with. You can see just a big old brawl here in the center. Knockback going down from the scouts. Another shotgun blast getting ready to move in here. All these orc melee squads looking a little worse for the wear. Sluggers have to retreat. Storm Boys getting very low. Shooter Boys trying to focus down those Assault Space Marines, I think, when really they need to be taking these scouts out of the fight. Storm Boys getting led to death here. They may even not get out of there. Knob goes down. Apothecary closing in. And looks like he's just not quite going to be able to close the gap and finish that last Storm Boy. Very fortunate for Myme. Myme taking heavy losses there. Codex actually managing to hold on to his power farm right there. That was a really clutch win for him. He needed to keep that to stay in the game. The Death Dread is moving on the field, perhaps a bit late, but late is better than never. Codex is heading into Tier 2, but there will be a period where that Death Dread will be mostly uncontested for the time being. Codex is probably very well aware of what's coming. You got to have a little of a prescient idea of what's going to happen at this stage of the game. You know you're behind on power. You haven't seen any major Tier 2 purchases. Sure, those couple knobs, but even that, your opponent has had a solid generator income for the entire game, whereas your farm got bashed at least once, and you didn't even get that farm up until relatively late. Invested in a couple huge power-heavy squads in Tier 1, so Codex has to know what's coming. Codex in general, just a very pragmatic player. He doesn't really mess around with I feel like the wacky builds so much. He knows what works, and he knows how to make it work. As we can see, he's managed to keep himself on the field here. Oh yeah, we can see Thunder and Lightning on the Assault Squad. Nothing on... Oh, there we go. Missile Launcher coming in on the Tac Squad right now, so he's ready for the AV. He knows it's coming. We've got the Death Dread moving in. Death Dread still not with its burn-in bits. Doesn't have quite enough. Myme had to spend so much requisition reinforcing all those lost Storm Boys and Orcs that he wasn't able to get that right out of the gate. Normally we do see that almost immediately, and that's very useful too. Of course, it gives a nice bit of extra HP to the Walker and those very useful flamers, which makes gen bashing a breeze. And here we go, a big orc engagement coming up. The Wog has been activated. Storm Boys jumping in. Ooh, but they're way ahead of the rest of the army. You don't want to have your Storm Boys up there ahead of all this. Bomber Boys going off, and I think that was actually an unfortunate choice. Apothecary did go down, however. Angels of Death getting activated. One lone Storm Boy getting out, but I don't think this is a battle Codex can win. Those Shooter Boys doing exactly what they need to this time around and focusing down the Scouts. Scouts doing lots of damage. But this Death Dread is just not going to go down to anything. Ooh, a bit of a self-grenade there from Codex. Didn't quite manage to land that where he needed to. These Scouts in a lot of trouble. But, oh, the Sluggers got pulled off. The Sluggers just let him escape with 26 HP. Oh, no. Huge oversight there from Myme. Codex, despite being on the back foot, has reasonable map control. You can see the VPs are very much not in his favor, but he has all these contested points here. He's got the power on both sides. That's at least a little extra income. That matters after a while when you're getting an extra 14 per minute over your opponent. You know, in a 27-minute game, that's gonna make a difference. But he is going to lose his natural power farm. That's not going to be good for him at all. Still managing to not bleed too much, all things considered, in those last couple engagements. This Death Dread needs to be very careful. Still no burners and bits, surprisingly. Assault Marines jump in. They are going to get the toss-off on that Death Dread. That Melta Bomb is going to take it very low here. The Assault Space Marines doing some heavy damage to the Commando Knob. Oh, and a rocket launcher doesn't kill that Death Dread. It was going to die, but it has 4 HP left. I knew it was going to live, but it was very dramatic to see that. I just didn't want you guys to know. Anyways, my goodness. Codex really fighting back hard here. This Def Dread is kind of needed for Myme right now to really approach this Space Marine blob. These scout shotguns fully upgraded. Sarges, shotguns, they have grenades, they have knockback. I know it's kind of indicative that you want to just take out those tanks and assault Space Marines, but those scouts do a lot of damage. Codex always has some excellent insight into how to deal with these situations. Surprised he's managed to keep it in this game so long. Actually, while we're in this little abeyance between all the crazy battling, if you want to get some good insight from Codex, stop over the Twitch channel. The most recent tournament we had him on, he actually did a few codecasts, at least a couple games, and it's really good stuff. Anyways, hopefully we'll have him on later. Anyways, we've got a big battle coming down right here. Myme does not want to lose this power farm again. He's got a good advantage. He's ready to go into Tier 3, but you don't really want to go into Tier 3 with no power farm. He might want to go stick it out in Tier 2 if he's not going to be able to stop this push. He doesn't have his sluggers up here, and the entirety of Codex's Space Marine blob is just hanging out waiting for those Storm Boys to jump in. And really, this map is pretty good. It allows the scouts to kind of hang around behind various spots and get in here. There's so much knockdown up here. We can see Assassinate went down on the Apothecary, but the Commando Knob just got focused down in the blink of an eye. Knockback going down. These Storm Boys have just spent the majority of every one of these battles here on their back. Hasn't been working out for them at all, but it looks like Codex is in fact going to be able to get that generator bash that he so desperately needs. Apothecary is going to sneak out of there, taking lots of fire. But finally, the Def Dread was up. Unfortunately, that's why the Sluggers weren't up there. Codex did get a nice win right there, despite not taking out that Def Dread. Took it out of the battle for a long time, and with Sluggers being the only thing that can repair it, they were unable to assist in that most recent engagement either. Probably would have made a difference, all things considered. He was able to just barely focus down those Storm Boys, but if the Sluggers had been up there and activated their Reckless, because most of the damage is actually coming from the Scouts and the Tactical Marines. We've got a Librarian coming out here too, which is just going to be some great synergy. Another answer to the melee. Going to be able to put out some more good initial damage too with a nice smite on any of the melee squads or the shoot-a-blob. Really what Myme needs to do is get these scouts out of the fight before he puts in the Orc melee. And I know from playing Orc myself, when you're playing against Space Marine, all you want to do is you say, oh, all I've got to do is get the Storm Boys, get the Sluggers in on those tacks, get the tacks out, get the Assault Squad out, and it's going to be gone. All I have to do is focus down the Assault Squad, when the Assault Squad really isn't the main source of damage at this point. It's this pile of range right here. So you really want to kind of pick away and scare off those scouts with your shooter boys. Try to engage with a little range, but there's all these walls and strange angles on this map. Makes it kind of difficult to take them on. Nice reaction time there from Myme. Saw those Assault Space Marine coming in, just decides to jump back. Didn't want to find those Storm Boys in a bad position once again. Still no burners and bits on the Def Dread. Why don't you upgrade your Def Dread, Myme? Oh my goodness. Angels of Death being activated. We can see, here comes the rocket, here comes the Melt-A-Bomb, and mass retreat from Myme. Oh, that is a poor choice, I think, Myme. Codex really making a solid comeback. This Def Dread is now abandoned in the center of a battle. The attacks moving in, Power Sword on those Assault Space Marines, and the Apothecary looks like he's going to snag the kill there for himself. 100 to 350. Codex is doing a great job pushing forward here once again, leaving Myme stranded in Tier 3 with no power. There are some Commando Knobs been called on the field. Power free with the global resource of the Commando Knob. But he needs to make sure, he needs to be very vigilant at this point in keeping these VPs out of reaches. Is a pretty difficult map to keep all the VPs in your control, and it's very easy to get sneaky backcaps in here too, because it's just a straight shot across the map from your base over to that natural VP of your opponent. So Myme can really manage to stall out here a little bit and get something nice in Tier 3 to really do some damage. We can see Knobs on the Shooter Boys completely upgraded with everything. But this Space Marine blob's still going to be very difficult to approach. Even has the combat stims on the Apothecary. Going to be given a squad that nice 25% damage boost. Commando Knobs still getting focused down once again. Assault Marines taking lots of fire here. They're taking the brunt of the entire Orc army. There is a lot to be concerned with right here. Apothecary gets a nice heal in. The Scouts are here ready with their shotguns, grenades, and every other thing, keeping those Storm Boys knocked back, but the Sluggers are still relatively healthy. Storm Boys do get a nice jump in there and a nice stun Once again, we're seeing, oh my gosh, the Assault Marines extremely low. I don't think they're going to get out of there. They get a nice knockback. They need to retreat right now, but they go down. And upon that assassination of that expensive squad, once again, Myme has to retreat his forces. He knows he got the win there. He doesn't have any power to protect. There's no reason for him to keep losing models and staying in there past that squad wipe. Wow, that's going to be bad for Codex. Codex now down to just his Librarians, Scouts, and Tactical Marines. Tacs are level 4, those Scouts level 3. Those Scouts, man, once they get leveled up, once they get maxed out, they are a serious threat. Assault Marines coming out for a 3rd time for Codex. Codex not even hesitating, saying, you can kill the Assault Marines all you want, I've been bleeding you plenty. Assassinate going down on the Apothecary once again, but now that his level 4 and has a nice chunk of HP on him, that Assassinate is not nearly as effective as we initially saw. That initial kill, though, man, if you can get that off in a game and then manage not to lose your own hero, could be very effective. Myme, unfortunately, just slipped up a little bit, was a little bit too brazen with his own hero, and kind of negated that potential win he had there further on. Codex pulling back the Tactical Marines. Assault Squad now out here on the field, ready to get back into it. They are unleveled and unupgraded, though, so that's, I feel like the strength in Assault Marines just becomes their tankiness late game. They're so difficult to take down, especially with the Apothecary, but an unleveled Assault Squad at this point in the game might be a little difficult to keep up. Man, look at how blue this map is. Codex managed to push back and just take the entirety of the map, leaving Myme struggling for requisition, struggling for power. At this point, he could bring... I'm not even sure what he needs. He's not going to have the power for a looted tank for quite some time. I think a looted tank would probably be pretty sweet here if he could micro it right. Of course, this map's pretty tough for vehicles. Maybe even a Weird Boy. It would be a little wacky, but I'd even say Stick Bombers. The way Codex has been kind of blobbing up this pile around this Apothecary, a nice Stick Bomber volley could be going off. Is that Kaboom I see right there? Oh my gosh! Huge explosion going down. Unfortunately, he knocked his own Shooter Boy back right into the Apothecary's hands. He gets that nice looking sync kill right there. Apothecary desperately trying to stay up, heals himself, which is something you never want to have to do. Oh my gosh, what was that huge heal after that? Was that from a level up? I'm not sure what that was, but man, this Orc melee pile just unquestionably getting annihilated right there. So much knockdown on the field. You've got Merciless Strike, you've got Purification Rites, you have both of the Scout shotguns. You haven't even seen yet, and they shall know no fear. So once that gets activated, I mean, the Orc melee just isn't even going to be able to do anything. Codex knows that the majority of the force is coming from Myme's melee power here. Unfortunately, the Commando Knob went down there along with those Shooter Boys. Got a weird... Oh, we do have a Weird Boy coming out, which I think will be very useful in dealing with these Space Marines. If nothing else, that Warp Vomit will be able to get a nice stun, allowing the Orcs a nice little window to get their melee in there unabated. Really managed to get some damage in here. I think even in that last... Something he could have done there. Myme did have his hero right here. He did have the resource, I think, to activate a Call the Boys. Call the Boys so very useful if you can get it going at the right position. 67 to 281 though, and Codex is slowly closing this gap. I mean, the map is completely blue, except for this natural wreck point back here. So even though he's behind in VPs, it doesn't even matter. He's got the map, he's heading into Tier 3. He's going to have the resources for either a Predator, Terminators, whatever he really wants at this stage in the game. Ooh, Burn a Bomb going down from Myme, and having to retreat through it could have been a little more dangerous had there been something in his retreat path. Never want to throw that Burn-A-Bomb in your own retreat path, as we can see right here. Scouts actually... Wow, look at the damage those Scouts are doing. Took out 2 more models on retreat right there. Level 4 shotgun Scouts. Let that be a lesson to you. Don't let those Scouts survive to this stage of the game, because they're just going to be nasty, nasty stuff. I'd say even Flash Gits would probably be an interesting choice here, simply because it would allow him to focus down those Scouts from extreme range, allow him to deal with this Apothecary, but I think it would just be difficult to keep everything off of them at this point. All these Space Marines are just so beastly. Even the Scouts have over 1,000 HP at level 4.
The time for battle is now.
So we've got a big engagement coming up right here up top. We've got the Librarian moving in. He does have his Force Staff, has one other upgrade. You can see with his 900 HP there. I'd be willing to bet that's the Tome of Time. I don't think he would have gotten the Psychic Hood without having the Tome of Time first.
The enemy is destroyed.
But Codex just proving that he knows exactly what he needed to counter this orc pile. And even though he was taking some serious losses here in the early game, managing to bring this back in. Oh my gosh, and we have... That's why he went to get those Assault Space Marines. We've got Vanguards on the field. He says, I don't need leveled Assault Space Marines. I'm going to bring out the Vanguards. We can see Codex moving in once again, but look at all the damage those Storm Boys take even before they get into melee. They are almost down already. Wart Vomit goes down, but these Vanguard veterans on the field. Slug is getting perilously low. Oh my goodness. I don't think I saw combat stims used anywhere there. I was looking for those yellow circles, but it looks like he's primarily been using them for heals. And man, this Vanguard veteran squad going to be a force to be reckoned with. They have 2 power swords, those lightning claws, and of course their Sarge has that nasty thunder hammer. And of course the Sarge is permanent with that squad, just like their brother squad, the Stern Guard veterans, which will give them access to the Merciless Strike indefinitely. Codex sitting on a huge pile at this point, 67 to 200. Man, these commandos just not quite able to deal with anything. Nice grenade going down on those commandos, knocking them back again with an instant shotgun blast. That's another thing about those leveled up scouts, is that they can both shotgun and grenade right next to each other back to back. Orc Blob is moving in on the tactical Marines right now. Weird Boy is firing some shots in there. Actually knocked back his Storm Boys. Very unfortunate right here. And Myme's just going to have a very difficult time getting back into this game. 67 to 174. Oh no, and we've got Terminators on the field. That's going to be brutal. Myme just doesn't even know how to react to that. He thought he was doing so well. And this is kind of just that rolling thing that Space Marine gets if you let him get going. If you let him bleed, and oh my gosh, he throws in the towel right there. The Assault Cannon was coming on for those Terminators. Like I was saying, if you let Space Marines get going like this, these high-level squads at the end, especially with the Apothecary, you're just going to regret it. He had such a good opening and just wasn't able to really take advantage of his tech lead that he had so decisively in the middle of the game. Didn't quite use that Death Dread the way he needed to. Needed the burners and bits, needed to support that a little more. He got scared by the Angels of Death in the mid-game. Angels of Death is no longer invulnerable, by the way, in the Elite mod. It's just a 50% damage reduction, and I feel like he still probably could have won that engagement. But unfortunately, the Commando Knob was down for most of the mid to late part of the game, and Myme just didn't quite use a few of the tools at his disposal, I feel like. Call to Boys can be a game changer. I think all Myme really needed to do was win 1 or 2 decisive engagements. With only 67 VPs left, he could have taken the map and led out Codex. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the game. I know I sure as heck did. This is the second time I watched it, and I still thought it was amazing. But feel free to comment, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I always appreciate it. This is Red-Rupee. I'll catch you guys next time.